What virtues are most important for children to learn? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all about parenting, good communication, child development, all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about virtue training. Virtue literally means moral goodness and the practice of moral duties and abstaining from vice. This means that in order for a person to practice virtue, they have to know what's right, wrong, good, bad, true, and false. In this video, we're going to be talking about what Aristotle thought about that and how we can help our children today live virtuous lives, as well as talking about many of the key virtues that children need most. Do you want your child to have a strong moral character? Well, most parents do, and if you do, then you definitely want to be teaching virtues to your children. Now, I know that virtues should be something that are infused into everything that we do in life, and hopefully in your home they are. But there is a power in deliberately deciding which virtues you want to teach. Years ago, I led a homeschool group where we did something for boys called Knights of Freedom. And in this particular group, the boys came and they would fight with these swords, like puffy swords. They would do LARP type stuff. I don't know if you know what that is. Anyway, and then they would discuss great people from history, and we would bring out a virtue from each of those people. So if we discussed Thomas Edison or Henry Ford or somebody like that, we would bring out their virtues. So for instance, Thomas Edison, we might talk about perseverance. And with Henry Ford, we might talk about ingenuity or creativity. These are all different virtues, things that somebody can cultivate within themselves. Well, each of these boys loved learning about these virtues. It seemed to make them stand a little taller. At one point, we decided, why not help them make these wooden swords? They can make their own swords, sand them, make them all cool and nice, and then they can wood engrave on them their virtue that they want to remember for their life. And I remember my little Porter engraving on his sword, courage, bravery. That's what he wanted for himself. Do you know, our children do find power when they learn about virtues? Because these virtues are principles, they're absolute truths, things that they can hold on to help them guide themselves in life. It helps them see which path is a good path and which path is not a good path. Virtues literally form our character, especially if we get our whole heart into those virtues. So Aristotle believed that there was a best sort of functioning. This best sort of functioning would be the best way for society to interact with each other. It would be the best for relationships. It would be the best for overall health. So like emotional health and social health and all of those types of things. This proper functioning would lead a person to the greatest amount of social and moral success, which ends up being contentment and happiness for the person. Now, Aristotle said that each person functions, and we can have either good functioning or bad functioning. The whole idea is that in order for us to have good functioning, we need to go toward proper functioning. So proper functioning brings in the concept of virtue. Aristotle believed that a person could not have proper functioning unless they were living virtuously. Living virtuously means that we are living the best version of ourselves. We are choosing to be who we know we ought to be. When we live according to what we know we ought to do for proper functioning, then Aristotle says we will flourish. Proper functioning gives a person the opportunity to have flourishing. And who doesn't want that for their children? We want our children to find the truths and principles, the things that they need to become happy in life, to have good relationships and good outcomes. And virtue was one of the main things that Aristotle targeted as leading toward that flourishing or that proper functioning for the individual. Now, maybe you were raised with virtue training, maybe you weren't. If you were raised with virtue training, what is one of the virtues that you hold dear? Put it in the comments below. You might bring up virtues that I'm not even going to talk about because there are many. And if you weren't raised in a virtuous way or with a lens looking at virtue, then what do you feel like happened to you in your life because you didn't have a focus on virtues? I'd like to hear that story too. Put it in the comments below. So let's get into what are the most important virtues that children need to know. Now, all of these virtues are going to lead toward the best flourishing. In order to flourish, a person needs to have social flourishing, which means they need to get along with other people. When you live virtuously, you should have better relationships with other people. But in order to have proper social flourishing, you actually have to have proper moral flourishing first. When a person decides that they want virtue and that they are truly going to be virtuous, this is a change of heart that they have. They decide that they want to be a different version of themselves. I know many children don't decide that right at the beginning. Most people are born wanting to be good and to do good. They make mistakes all the time, especially children, because they're learning and growing, and of course we have to be patient in that. Now, that patience is actually a virtue. And when we live according to patience, then our children will hopefully learn patience as they grow so that by the time they become parents or adults, they will have increased patience as well. Our example in living according to virtue, because we have a desire to be virtuous, will be one of the greatest teachers that our children have. However, there are other things that we can use. Years ago, I read to my children a book called The Book of Virtues. It's by William Bennett. I don't know if you've read this old book or if you were raised on it yourself, but you can see a lot of the pictures inside. They're kind of old-fashioned, antiquated, and that's because this book actually has a lot of historical, or what some people might consider old-fashioned, ideas. Let's talk about some of the virtues that William Bennett brings up in the Book of Virtues, but there are others that I also think are vital. William Bennett said that the main virtues children should know are courage, perseverance, responsibility, work, self-discipline, compassion, faith, honesty, loyalty, and friendship. So let's talk about some of those first. Whether you feel like you're a person that believes in God or doesn't, virtues are something that hold our entire society together. There are things that we feel like are just true, such as honesty and courage. Those are virtues that a person can have that everyone around them will think are a good thing. Compassion is another one. Don't we think that a good human quality is to be a compassionate person? Most virtues lead a person away from selfishness. If you're a religious person, you recognize this as an important part of being a believer or follower of God in whatever faith you happen to adhere to. But even if you aren't a person that considers yourself a God-fearing or religious person, you know that there's just something that makes a person better than somebody else. And there are characteristics that that person has that set them apart or make them someone that other people want to follow or be around. Those things that you're seeing and noticing are virtues. So honesty is a virtue that all of us see. In fact, we value it very, very highly. There is hardly anything that is more offensive to another person than when someone chooses to be dishonest with them. Don't we want all of our children to practice responsibility? Of course we do. Responsibility is probably one of the virtues parents care about most. They want their children to develop a sense of responsibility so that their lives as parents are a little bit easier, but also so that they know that they have peace of mind that their child will actually be okay as they grow into adulthood. Courage is an interesting one. A lot of people think that courage is simply bravery, but it's not the same. Courage has a lot to do with discernment. It's knowing when to say something and when not to say something, when to step up and when not to step up. When a person is courageous, they're able to examine a situation and see when it would be best for everyone involved for you to take action. Sometimes the most courageous act is to remain silent. But sometimes something just needs to be said. I love that William Bennett puts an emphasis on teaching self-discipline. Self-discipline is another way to say self-government. And of course, that's what this channel is all about, is teaching yourself and your children self-government simultaneously. And that is possible. It's hard work, for sure. Learning to discipline yourself, learning to govern yourself is the hardest thing that you will ever do. It's making yourself align with the virtues, the principles, the truths that you know are correct. This means that you have to tell yourself you've done the wrong thing many times. You have to self-correct yourself. You have to be humble. Otherwise, you won't ever be fully self-disciplined. Beyond what William Bennett brings out in his book, which is a great book, by the way, to teach children, in fact, it teaches them in the ways of poetry and little stories, so ways where they can really hold on to it. I love the poem, Try, Try Again. Such an old, antiquated poem, but it's actually really relevant today. Shouldn't we keep trying and trying again, no matter what? And I love the picture that he has in the book, too, where there's this teacher standing there watching a boy at the blackboard trying to do his math facts, and she's giving him this look like, you can do it, you can do it. So when we teach these virtues to our children, we need to have that attitude, like you can do this. Keep going, keep trying. In fact, I'm glad that he started his book with courage and perseverance, because it takes courage and perseverance to live any other virtue. They truly are some of the foundational virtues that we have. Another virtue I've already mentioned is bravery. That was a big one for my son. He was a little bit timid, and he had to keep telling himself to be brave, you know? And so we called him Porter the Brave, because over time he really took that on himself. He was going to do everything he could to be brave because he felt a little bit timid. It's beautiful to see the man that he's become and all of the brave things that he does, and how he doesn't bat an eye. He just steps out and he inserts himself in any problem or situation that he feels like he needs to help out. It's truly inspiring to see what he has done for himself, because truly virtues being cultivated are a personal thing. A child can be taught virtues, but parents have to wait for the child to actually see the truth in the virtue and want it to actually change their heart, change their character, and become a different version of themselves. There are some other virtues that I would like to bring to your attention. The virtue generosity. This is a great one. If we can teach our children to be generous, then we can help them see that they aren't the only people in the world, that there are other people out there, and that they have a duty or loyalty to other people around them as well. We can teach our children to be refined, or the virtue would probably be graceful. Graceful in their thoughts and in their words and in their actions. Teach them to master their mother tongue, to only say the things that they really mean to say, to pause, to think about stuff, to be deliberate. That would be a great virtue for a person to have as well. When a person is virtuous, they are humane. They care about other people and animals and things around them. They also are open-minded. Part of that humaneness is them wanting to listen and understand other people. So this means that a person who is virtuous learns how to give themselves a no answer. They may want to take the limelight. They may want to say everything and tell everyone what to do and take control. But a truly virtuous person, the real leader in the group, is the one who can tell themselves, no, now isn't the time. Not yet. Not yet. Okay, now say that truth, but in a really kind and understanding way. Make sure that person knows that you understand them too. Listen to what they're saying and why they're saying it, and care about them all at the same time. That type of open-mindedness is almost gone in our society today. Now, I don't want to be a doomsdayer, but I go to a lot of places. I go to legislative settings, I go to the United Nations to advocate for children and families there, and the things that I hear, the boxes that people put each other into, and the inability to listen and understand each other in these high-level arenas is sickening to me. How do they think that they are going to solve any problems globally, nationally, in a community, if they don't take the time to really care and be open-minded about other people. One of the biggest virtues that really encompasses all of the virtues is to be a seeker of good, or good seeking, I guess you could say. That means that you have an allegiance toward goodness. When you have an allegiance toward goodness, which means God's way or God-like things, all of the other virtues are going to come into play. That's the one director within yourself that will keep helping you live in accordance with all of the virtues, to desire goodness. Isn't that what we want for our children? We want them to be good people. We want them to make the world a better place by spreading goodness. Virtues are a key part of that. They are foundational to training. Sadly, at school, they aren't taught as much. So it really is up to the parents to keep bringing virtues to the forefront. It is my hope that virtues can surge in popularity again, and that we can see more virtues being taught in programming and books that are intended for children, instead of just values and things that they care about or that they want. Instead, it's more of who they ought. That will lead them in a better direction for their futures and to help their future children too. Now, I mentioned something in this video. I don't know if you caught it, but I mentioned giving yourself a no answer. There are skills and principles to self-government that will help a person become virtuous and live according to their virtues. And I teach them all over this channel. But there is one video that is a full-length class about teaching children self-government that I think you'll be interested in. It's called The Not-So-Known Secret to Parenting Success. I will talk about how to teach children to accept no answers, follow instructions, disagree appropriately, and much, much more. So click on the link to that video now. I'll see you there.